converting decimals to fractions and fractions to decimals. Well, how do you change decimals into fractions? Well, it's actually pretty easy. Now, if you can read that and you know that says 8 thousandths, well, then it'd be pretty easy to write a fraction. Just write 8 thousandths as a fraction. Now, I'll show you a little trick if you get stuck. What you can do is I can put, if I wanted to convert all these to fractions, I can put a little 1 under the decimal point. I can put zeros under the numbers. This would be 72 10,000ths. Again, I put a 1 under the decimal point, zeros under the numbers. This is 8 hundredths. I'm going to put a 1 under the decimal point, zeros under the numbers. This would be 119 hundred thousandths. Now, if you can just look at this decimal and you know it says 7 thousandths, then just go ahead and write 7 thousandths. But if you get stuck, you can use this little trick. Just put a 1 under the decimal, put zeros under the numbers. That would be 7 thousandths. Okay. Now, let's try this with, these are going to be mixed numbers when you write them as fractions because they have whole numbers. So our whole number here is 1, and then our fraction would be 2 100ths. Our whole number here would be 7, and our fraction would be 2 tenths. For the next one, our whole number is 6. I'm going to put a 1 under the decimal, and that would be 19 10,000ths. Now, if you can read this, again, if you can just read this next one and you know that it says 80 7 thousandths, then just go ahead and write the mixed number. Or you can use the trick, this little trick, just put a 1 under the decimal, zeros under the numbers. That would be 80 7 thousandths. Okay. Now, what if you wanted to go the other way? What if you wanted to change fractions into decimals? So if you wanted to change 18 10,000ths into a decimal, well, you can just go ahead and write 18 10,000ths if you're good at decimals, or there is another little trick that you can use to help you if you get stuck here. 4 hundredths. I'm going to draw a little, here's the trick. I'm going to draw a line from the 4 to that last 0. I'm going to bring this 0 up. I'm going to turn this 1 into a decimal. This would be 0.04 as a decimal, 4 hundredths. So you would take the 9, you draw a little line to that last 0, bring this 0 up, bring that 0 up, bring this 0 up, and turn the 1 into a decimal point. So this would be 0.0009. 13 thousandths. You would draw a little line from the 3 to that 0, 1 to that 0, bring this 0 up, turn our 1 into a decimal. So 13 thousandths as a decimal would be 0.013. 22 hundred thousandths. Well, I'm going to connect that 2 to that last 0, that 2 to that 0, bring this 0 up, bring this 0 up, bring this 0 up, turn the 1 into a decimal, 0.00022. And I could check any of these to see if, just to make sure I got them right, using that previous little trick that I showed you. So if I put a 1 under the decimal and zeros under the numbers, 4 hundredths, yep, that checks. Put a 1 under the decimal and zeros under the numbers, 9 10,000ths, yeah, that checks. Put a 1 under the decimal and zeros, 13 thousandths, perfect. And the last one, I'm going to put a 1 under the decimal, zeros under the numbers. Does that say 22 hundred thousandths? Yes, it does. Okay, let's just do one final example. Again, if this is 108 10,000ths, and if you're asked to convert that into a decimal, you don't have to use any little tricks. So if you are good with decimals and you can just write it, then go ahead. If you want to use that little trick that I just showed you, I'm going to connect the 8 to the 0 to the 0, 1 here. Bring up this 0. The 1 becomes a decimal. I get the same result. 0.0108, and I could check either of these just to make sure that I did write 108 10,000ths, I'll put a 1 under the decimal, zeros under the numbers. Does that say 108 10,000ths? Yes, it does. So this is just a couple little tricks if you think you need them, if you get stuck when you're converting fractions to decimals or decimals to fractions.